The Democratic Alliance has poured cold water on allegations made by its now former federal finance chairperson, Dion. George released a statement announcing his resignation from the party and whilst doing so made several claims against the organization's leadership and in particular leader John Steenhuisen. Amongst the allegations made by the former Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment include how Steenhuisen has allegedly been captured by criminal elements. Steenhuisen and George have been locked in a public spat for months now. This stems from a complaint brought by the now former federal finance chairperson accusing the DA leader of misappropriating the party's credit card. But earlier this week, Steenhuisen was cleared of all wrongdoing by the Federal Legal Commission. In a statement in response to George's resignation, the party says it is unfortunate that George has resigned before answering to a pending disciplinary matter before the DA's Federal Legal Commission. Now, to make sense of the internal wranglings within the Democratic Alliance, I am joined by Joubert, who is a historian and political journalist. A very good evening to you, Yan. Thank you so much for joining us. And I guess I want to ask you what you made of the manner in which this divorce happened, publicly on national television, you know, in the middle of the day.
Good evening, Marcia. Good evening to all the viewers. Yes, I guess every divorce is messy. Some people handle it with a bit more style than others. And I think many people who vote for the Democratic Alliance and would like their party to not be the most difficult party in the country to handle its internal cases would be very disappointed. If you decide or view politics as an ongoing process, and a moving process at all times, it means that any political party is either growing or shrinking, either going up or down. It's always in flux. And I don't think anybody in their right mind can think that what is happening between Dr. George and Mr. Steenhuisen can take the Democratic Alliance forward. It can only take it backward.
And as you're mentioning, the political parties either going up or down constantly. How would you describe this moment for the Democratic Alliance?
Look, to some degree, it couldn't happen at a better time for them. Their Congress, their Federal Congress, which is like the ANC conferences where they choose their leaders, decide their policies and basically put their wares out to store so that people can see, the voters, what they offer. That is about 2.5 months away. It will happen on the weekend of the 12th of April. So I don't think that will be impacted. I think much will be required of the national chairperson of the Democratic Alliance, Dr. Ivan Meyer, who is a stickler for discipline, and I think that people can expect something that will be run with military precision and none of this infighting, and especially the level of the infighting. It's absolutely remarkable. And now Action SA has also, or one of their members has also entered the fray. And I just wonder how any of the three people, be it Mr. Beaumont of Action SA, Mr. Steenhuisen or Dr. George, can think that they're gaining anything. They're all looking bad. And they might tell each other that the other one is worse than them, but it's no way to go forward. The other timing issue, which is fortunate for the DA, is that this should be blown over by the time of the local government elections, which are expected in October or November this year, depending on whether the IEC and the government decides to have these elections during the matric exams. In that case, it's expected to be the first Wednesday of November. Alternatively, perhaps 2 or 3 weeks before that. I know that is what the teachers' unions want.
When Dr. George raised the issues of the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, and the party's credit card, did you think that it would ultimately come down to this kind of a showdown and a divorce?
Well, you know, I was talking a bit earlier of many DA supporters and voters who expect a bit more class from the party. I think that is a given. So perhaps in some families, it's just not done what's happening here. I mean, many people just think it's low class. However, the moment the issue of the credit card came through, and Dr. George saying that basically funds had been misappropriated, I thought this couldn't happen. This couldn't have a happy ending. I mean, basically, you can't say that your leader is a crook. And to a very large degree, that's what Dr. George said. That would mean that his position, Dr. George's position, becomes untenable because either he believes that he's working for a crook or he walks away. It just took a very long time to walk away.
So in this case, would it be that if your leader does turn out to be a crook, we do know that in this case that the DA internally has cleared John Steenhuisen of any wrongdoing, but should there have been merit to what Dr. George had raised, does that mean that you rather hush?
Just repeat the last part of your question. Does that mean?
Does that mean that you rather keep quiet as the person that's also in charge of the party's purse when you're seeing things going wrong, even if it is the leader himself?
Well, obviously, if you believe things are going wrong, even if it's the leader yourself, you must speak out. Whether you are correct in doing so, whether your facts are correct, that is basically the most important matter. We don't know that yet. At the moment, Dr. George says Mr. Steenhuisen misappropriated the credit card, for instance, in buying Uber Eats or whatever it's called, I don't use it, for his family. I don't know whether that's the end of what Dr. George said, because he was then hushed and basically gagged by the DA, so he couldn't speak openly about it anymore. He, of course, will now no longer be gagged because he's no longer a member. Mr. Steenhuisen says basically that Dr. George is lying. So the one says the other is lying. Both of them, they're like children at the back of a car, and the adult in the front who must keep the car moving and tell the boys to shut up and behave themselves. That is the Federal Legal Commission under the excellent leadership of Advocate Glynis Breitenbach. I don't think, Martha, that you or I want to be on the wrong side of Glynis Breitenbach in any legal matter. So I think we should wait and trust that the DA leadership will have the respect for its voters and its members to, in the end, announce and openly distribute the findings of Federal Legal Commission under Advocate Breitenbach so that we can know who's lying and who's telling the truth. At this stage, they're contradicting each other.
I'm just going to ask you to kind of look into a political crystal ball here, perhaps, but do you think, you spoke about, the gag order initially. Now that Dr. George is no longer with the Democratic Alliance in any way, shape or form, not even as a member, of course, that gag order is null and void. Knowing what he knows, being a long-standing DA member, having worked in senior ranks of the party as well, being in charge of the party's finances as well, he knows quite a lot. Could this in any way come back to bite the DA? Because he did mention that during that gag order, he wasn't allowed to speak, and this is something that seemed to trouble him. He wasn't allowed to speak on this matter, but he said that, for instance, John Steenhuisen would continue to speak on the matter publicly. So almost to say that it's been unfair. Now that he doesn't have the shackles of the gag order or even membership, could this come back to bite the DA?
It could. Let's just deal with the merits of what he said. He basically said in his statement that both Steenhuisen and the minister who is now in charge of his former department, Mr. Willie Oukamp, attacked him, but he was not allowed to say anything back, and that no action was taken against Mr. Steenhuisen or Mr. Oukamp. Now, firstly, just to get rid of the first point, Mr. Oukamp is actually not at issue here. He was never gagged by anyone. Mr. Steenhuisen and Dr. George were gagged, and certainly Mr. Steenhuisen did not keep quiet. You can look, for instance, at the Alec Hogg interview that was done, and news kept coming from that part. Of course, it's the DA's internal matter how it deals with its leader. And I think people are watching and people are wondering. When Dr. George is saying that some are more equal than others, this will be firmly denied, I'm sure, by all concerned in the DA. But that kind of statement from someone as senior as Dr. George, no matter what the merit is, it's going to not be good for the DA. It's the same point I made right at the beginning. If you say that a political party is a dynamic creature and that it changes every day and its fortunes and people's opinion of it change every day, then obviously the former head of finance making certain statements also about equality within the judicial or legal aspects of the party will have an impact. I don't know what the merit is. It might well be that Advocate Breitenbach will deal with the matter. It might also be that the DA does not want to deal with the matter anymore. As I said, it's pretty far from any election. This is not going to have a massive impact, I think, on the DA's performance in the election. But sometimes people can vote for a party and respect it just a little less because perhaps it's strayed, maybe again, maybe in the past not so much, from what it is purported and supposed to be. And that, of course, does impact support, even if not immediately at the voting booth. Now, whether Dr. George is going to say anything more, that's up to him. I think it would depend on a lot of things. It would depend on his own views, which I understand to be strong. It would depend on what he sees as acceptable behavior. These things are not set in stone. But if this were somebody in my family who was unhappy, I would be very surprised if they would be this public about it. Of course, people differ. It would also depend on the DA's actions. If the DA lets the matter lie and does what it's supposed to do, which is an open process by a very well qualified and deeply respected legal figure like Advocate Breitenbach and perhaps Nicholas Kotzel, who always helps her, then I think this will go away. If Dr. George or the DA persists in demonizing, and I'm talking about certain leading members of the DA as well, persist in demonizing each other, then they're both going to be hurt very much. And I think that if the DA does not come through and be completely open with whatever the Federal Legal Commission under Advocate Breitenbach found, then some doubts will linger whether they are well-founded or not.
Guess we shall wait and see. Thank you so much for joining us. Such a pleasure to get your insights. And that, of course, is a historian and political journalist, Joubert.